Hello, everybody, and welcome to the season 2 kickoff of Cozy Conversations.
Woo!
I'm Taryn,
And I'm Sarah.
and we are just so excited to be back with you guys for season 2.
So excited. And what's even more exciting is the fact that Taryn and I are together in the same room right now.
We're literally sitting on the cozy couch with cozy blankets.
Yep.
Yeah, doing our cozy conversation.
Look at us go.
I know.
How's it going, Taryn?
It's going well, Sarah.
That's good.
How has your summer been so far?
It's been really good. Just a lot going on with like work, and I took a break from school for the summer, which is really nice. Just like with writing and everything, but yeah. What about for you?
Yeah, it's been good. The fact that I've been here in Lynchburg for almost the whole summer has been amazing.
It's been so nice.
It has been.
The movie nights,
Yes.
the movie hangouts,
Yes.
the coffee shop
Yes.
hangouts. It's been awesome.
It has been.
Yeah. Tell me about Cozy Cottage Living. How are you doing with that?
Yes. Cozy Cottage Living is officially launched.
Woo!
So super stoked. I have so many cute things that I really like on the website.
You
and
do.
They're cute things.
They are.
And I am hoping to branch out in a lot of different directions with it. So there's not tons of stuff on there right now. So I really want to build it up.
That's awesome. And you're absolutely killing the social media marketing game, in my personal opinion. I was even just scrolling on Instagram Reels the other day, and all of a sudden it sponsored Cozy Cottage Living. I was like, wait, this is Taryn. So that was really exciting. So
Thanks. It's been fun. Also a learning experience.
And the Off to College Reel will have been released by now. So that's all Taryn's handiwork.
It was a
and
lot
her
of
voice
fun.
too.
Yes. Sarah, update us on you and your writing and your plans.
You know, I'm moving along. Definitely had like around 4th of July, I had like a lot of great progress in terms of like word count. I think I wrote that weekend like over 6,000 words.
Wow.
Which we need to do that again because my book is due to my editor by September 24th.
Right.
So I have like 56,000 words right now, and the book is probably going to be around 90,000 to 100,000 words.
Right.
So someone's got to write that.
You can do it. You can do it.
Thank you.
I have full faith in you.
And I haven't really talked about this with too many like other people, but I have been writing a lot of poetry lately.
Yes, she has.
So it's just been really fun and like a different like writing creative outlet for me that I'm really excited for. And I have like this idea to maybe put together a poetry collection or anthology to release. Maybe we'll see where the Lord leads with that. But yeah, I also am hoping and planning that sometime within season 2, I'll have released my blog / website.
Yay.
So, Lord willing,
super
prayers
stoked.
up about that one. We'll see.
Also, her poetry, guys, she's been reading. I've gotten to partake of the beautiful words of Sarah Baylor, and it is really good. I cannot wait for this poetry collection to come out.
I'm excited. We're gonna see just basically all of the poetry I've written is just what the Lord has been teaching me through the past like few months, things like that, and just writing that down into words. That some of them rhyme occasionally. So that's been really fun, but yeah. This leads us into our cozy cues, cozy questions.
I love these.
Which is kind of what we're going to be calling like our segment of just the fun questions we ask each other in terms of like books, movies, and TV shows. And we're also going to include like any like music that we've been listening to, just because music is a big part of my life and Taryn's life as well. So we're like, that'd be fun to like talk about.
Yes, absolutely.
So Taryn, tell us, what books are you reading?
I am reading right now a book called The Whistler by John Grisham. And it's really good. It's about it's like about the judicial system in Florida. And it's about like these investigators that investigate judicial conduct. And like they get this like almost anonymous. They have to like go to this secret place and meet this guy for him to file a complaint against like a judge.
Oh wow.
And apparently this judge is like super corrupt, and
Oh
there's like all these
my.
people like involved in this corruption like scheme.
That's
And so then these two
crazy.
people who normally don't have to do anything like in depth, like they're not law enforcement, but their
Yeah.
job is to investigate the complaints. And so they're like having to get into this whole thing with the judge, and
That
like
sounds so
yeah,
interesting.
it really is. I will say it's been a lot. I can only manage like a few pages at a time so far, because
Sure.
it's like very heavy on like law and like
legal
legal
yeah.
stuff, and so it's just a lot to wade through.
Yeah.
But it's been really
That's
good.
exciting. I
Yeah.
haven't read any John Grisham books yet, but I have heard lots of good things.
Yeah.
And especially because he does a lot of like the legal judge type stuff.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, I've been reading. I restarted. I mentioned this on last season of Cozy Conversations. But I picked up again Jenny Allen's "Get Out of Your Head,"
Yes.
which is a nonfiction Christian book that talks about like really taking your thoughts captive and just kind of changing your thought patterns as well.
Right.
So instead of like being angry about things, you know, of course that's the feeling that you might have, but you just choose to act on that differently.
Right.
So that's been really good. But I also just recently finished The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes.
Those are the ones you were telling me about. They sounded so good.
Yeah, so it's a series of 3 books. I just finished the first one where this girl gets like, she literally lives like, I don't remember, I think Connecticut. And she gets called to her principal's office. This isn't really giving anything away because it's literally the first part of the book, or even like the back cover blurb.
Yeah.
She gets called to her principal's office, and there's this kid there, and he's like, "You're being summoned to come hear the will, or to the reading of the will of my grandfather that just died." And she doesn't even know who this like grandfather guy is. Never even met him. She doesn't think. So she goes, and it's like all the way in Texas. And basically, in the will, he disinherited his whole family and like left her his huge estate, all of his like charities that he like owns, everything.
Wow.
He gave to this like 16, 17-year-old girl.
Wow.
So he loves like riddles, so they're like trying to solve these riddles and things and figure out why.
So cool.
It's like a bit of a mystery too.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. But next question, any TV shows, movies you've been watching lately?
Yes. I've been watching The Mentalist with you.
Yes, I've been rewatching it.
Yeah, I've been watching it for
Showing
the first time.
Taryn.
Yes.
What are your thoughts initially?
It's so good.
It is
I
good.
love it. Like all the little like symbolism and stuff in it kind of is just really cool.
Yeah.
And it's just a great storyline.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm loving that.
It's gonna get mind-boggling.
Oh, I'm excited.
You're gonna be like, we need to watch the next episode because it'll start like picking up a lot.
Yeah.
But if you haven't watched The Mentalist, definitely check it out. It's a TV, like definitely like if you've watched Psych or Monk, definitely a little bit heavier than that.
Yeah.
But not as heavy as Criminal Minds. So
yeah,
that's kind of
sure.
like my spectrum of it. So I've also been watching The Mentalist, obviously with you since you've been in town, which has been super fun.
Yes.
But we've also been watching Friends.
Yes.
Which has been really fun because I've never seen it.
Yeah, she hasn't.
So
it's been fun. It's just very light-hearted show.
Yeah. We always, so Taryn will be like, oh, let's watch another episode of The Mentalist. I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. And then we watch another one. I'm like, okay, can we watch an episode of Friends? Because I need something lighter.
Lighten it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about music, Sarah?
Oh my goodness. I've been listening to Shane and Shane.
I love them.
Which reminds me that maybe by now, because this episode comes out August 4th.
Yes.
But we are going to either have released or will be releasing a Cozy Conversations podcast playlist.
Yes.
With all of our favorite like worship music and like Christian uplifting music. So stay tuned for that, or check it out if it's already released.
Yes.
Because we haven't really decided when we want to release it.
Yes.
Right now there's like 4 Shane and Shane songs on there. But yeah, I've been listening to a lot of them. I've also been listening to Nathan Nockels. You know who Christy Nockels is?
Yep.
So it's her husband.
Okay.
But I think he like orchestrated her music.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
But he also released an album on his own, and it's
Nice.
all just instrumentals.
Oh, I
Like,
love
not of any
that.
specific songs, but like
Yeah.
songs that he wrote. And it's absolutely beautiful just to like turn on at the end of the
Amazing.
day to like calm down and
Yeah.
get ready for bed, things like that.
Yeah.
I've been also putting together a playlist for my poetry anthology. And so
Nice.
that's on there. As well as I've been also listening to Future of Forestry. He does a lot of like great like the orchestration, things like that, but also just like music with words and stuff because he also sings, which is cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's been cool. And then today I was like going to work and I was like, I really just want to listen to like the soundtrack from Les Miserables.
There you go.
So I'm like in the car, do you hear me? Because remember when we were in the homecoming concert at Liberty?
Yeah.
And we sang that.
Yes,
It
yes,
was
it
so
was so
fun.
good.
So fun. But what about you? What have you been listening to?
I have been listening to, well, okay, so on Saturday, it was cloudy and like rainy here
Yeah.
all day.
Oh, was it? I wasn't here. I'm here agreeing with you,
Oh,
but I
right,
wasn't even in town.
I forgot. But yeah, it was all cloudy,
Okay.
and I got in like a fall mood.
Yes.
And anytime I get in the fall mood, I want to listen to jazz music. So I looked up a coffee house jazz playlist on Spotify. I
That's
listened to
fun.
that, and then I've also been listening to. I have this beach playlist that I love, and it's all this like 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s probably beach music.
That's fun.
You know, like the Beach Boys and like, you know.
Is that this? What year were they from?
I don't remember. I would have to look it up.
I'm curious.
I know they're like our parents' age music.
Yeah.
But
That
like,
sounds so fun.
yeah, they it's very fun summer music. So I've been enjoying that.
Yeah,
But that's-
60s.
60s.
Beach
Okay,
Boys.
that's what
I just
I was
had to
thinking.
know. Because I don't know why I thought it was like earlier. Anyways, my dad's probably very disappointed in you right now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I definitely understand that like fall vibe. I'll start listening to like indie type music
Gotcha.
when the fall season, or
Yes.
even right now because I'm thinking about fall, or when it's
Yeah.
cloudy, things like that.
Right.
So that's cool.
I think our next little question we want to talk about is, what has the Lord been teaching you recently, Sarah?
Really, the biggest thing that's like, I feel like a lot of times in life we'll go through these seasons where we will learn all these lessons.
Yeah.
And it'll be like really not hard, but just kind of tough in the moment of learning these things that the Lord is trying to teach us. And then we'll kind of come out of that season, I feel like, and we'll walk into a new one where you have to be reminded of everything that the Lord just taught you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of coming out of that season of like needing to be reminded of the things that the Lord has taught me,
Yeah.
which makes me think back to like season 1 episodes of the Cozy Convos.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the lessons I was learning during that time have kind of been repeated for me lately, which is interesting, and it's cool just to kind of see how the Lord is working and moving in my life. But really the verse that just comes to mind is Proverbs 3:5-6, which says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make straight your paths." And so that's just a reminder of like, no matter what season I'm going through, no matter what it looks like, to just trust in the Lord, and that he will give you peace that surpasses all understanding. Like literally,
Yeah.
sometimes you'll walk through something where you aren't really sure what the outcome is going to be, but you can just sense peace, and that's from the Lord. So that's just something that I've been thinking about too. But what about you, Taryn?
Yeah. I was reading Psalm 145 this week, and verse 14. I'm going to read verses 14 to 21. It says, "The Lord sustains all who fall and raises up all who are bowed down. The eyes of all look to you, and you give them their food in due time. You open your hand and satisfy the desire of every living thing. The Lord is righteous in all his ways and kind in all his deeds. The Lord is near to all who call upon him, to all who call upon him in truth. He will fulfill the desire of those who fear him. He will also hear their cry and will save them. The Lord keeps all who love him, but the wicked he will destroy. My mouth will speak the praise of the Lord, and all flesh will bless his holy name forever and ever." And this was such a blessing to me this week, and just thinking about how the Lord takes care of you even when you're going through a difficult time. Like he is, he's kind in all his deeds, and he's caring, and he loves you, and he will take care of you. And I love the part of like, he will fulfill the desires, and it's like those desires he places in our hearts, both for things that we need, but also, the desires that he places us for, the dreams that he gives us, and, those things, and just his promise to fulfill that, and praising him because of those things.
Right.
So
yeah. That's awesome, Taryn. And I feel like that's a really good segue into introducing our Off to College series, which this is the first episode that's going to be diving into that. And a lot of what you said there with sharing that passage too, of just like, going through life, and of course like learning to trust the Lord, things like that, is really what like college is going to be all about, and definitely lessons that I know I've learned as I've gone through college. But we're just really excited for this series.
Yes.
I know one thing is like if you're new to our podcast name is Cozy Conversations Podcast. Yes. So we do have, cozy conversations that we hope you're, at home on the couch with a cup of tea or whatever, enjoying the conversation. But we understand that like in life you will go through hard and difficult things, and changes can bring about those difficulties as well, even if those changes are good with something like college. So that's why we want to just encourage you with this, whether you are going into college this August, or you are going back for like your second, third, or fourth year, or whether you're starting like grad school, or even if you're in your 50s, 60s, and you have a kid that's going to college, or you've been through that yourself as well. So just to encourage you as well. And I know we started season 1 with a lot of like college advice and things like that, but really we want to go deeper into that now with the first 4 episodes of our season 2 of the Cozy Combos podcast. Yes. So, Taryn, could you tell us more of like the why behind the series?
Yeah,
which I feel like we kind of touched on that already. But...
No, a little bit, but you were just on the right track there, Sarah. Like, our heart is just to encourage, especially because we literally have just been through college, right. And so our heart is just to encourage those of you who are going into or just still in college, and just share tidbits that we've learned, and like what the Lord has taught us now that we're on the other side, and a hope that can be encouraging for you, because like our podcast is here to encourage other young people. And so as they
trek through uncharted waters or something like that. Of adulthood.
So there is nothing more uncharted than going to college for the first time. So that's just kind of our heart behind why we want to do this series. And I'll just jump into a little overview of the series. It's a 4-part series. So today we're going to just talk about just kind of general advice for college, school and life balance, which is the biggest thing you're probably going to be hit with right away.
Oh yeah.
And then just some of our fun tips for just dorm living and things like that.
And probably some funny stories too. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what comes up in the next few minutes.
Exactly. Next week, we're going to be talking about relationships, because that's a huge thing that changes when you go to college. You have your old friends from home, and you have your family, and then you have all these new friends that you meet in college, and you have a new church at college. You have all these different people in your life. And so managing all of that, and then roommates can be a big one. And so and managing all of that can just be a lot. So we're going to devote a whole episode to that next week. And then on week 3, we're going to talk about spiritual growth, because we just feel strongly that, college is a time where you can really grow spiritually instead of the other direction.
For sure.
And so we want to dedicate an episode to talking about that. And then our last episode of our Off to College series we'll discuss life decisions, because in college, going to college is a huge life decision.
For sure.
But throughout college, the life decisions don't stop. You're going to find yourself making more and more huge life decisions, and that's just can be a hard place to be, and it can be very intimidating and overwhelming. And sometimes people don't, a lot of times people, they talk, I feel like when I went to college, it was just like, oh, that's so amazing. Like, you're going to have so much fun, like off to college. Okay. But like, then you get there and you're like, wow, there was so much that like I'm learning that like, wow, I was not prepared for that, or
For sure.
I didn't remember somebody talking about how difficult this was, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of our heart, and that will conclude our Off to College series.
Yep. Yeah.
So definitely check back every week because we're excited about all of these episodes.
Yes. And life decisions don't stop after college.
Very true.
So we hope that this can encourage you too, like in no matter what phase of life you're in. But really the first biggest thing that I think about when it comes to college is moving to college, which for me and for Taryn too was a huge step that we both had to take.
Yeah.
And just like starting college and really that first semester, for me, I'm from California and the Lord called me to college in Virginia, which is a whole flight away. Yes. So I remember like having to pack, I think it was maybe a total of 5 suitcases that we had to make sure were under 50 pounds each. Yes. And my parents, I was blessed to have them come drop me off too at college. And we had to like check in like the bags and like pay for the other 2 and things like that. So that's really just the biggest thing, like, the fact that you're actually getting up and moving. But what about you, Taryn? How did that work out for you?
Well, first of all, my mom started the packing process at the beginning of the summer. She was like, I love my mom so much, and she made sure I was prepared and I had everything that I could possibly need. And then it was my dad's job to fit all of that stuff in the back of our vehicle. And my brother and my dad, they always are in charge of packing the car.
Yeah.
And so I just remember them shoving things in and like packing and repacking it to get it to where it would fit. And then we drive 18 hours across the country because I'm from Nebraska. So to get to Virginia. And then, something I want to mention here, Sarah, is these people who are just going to college for the first time, they need to be prepared for the move-in process.
Oh my goodness.
One of the most chaotic days of your entire life. Now, Liberty is amazing. Liberty actually, for their first-time students, they have a welcoming committee of all the RAs and student leadership. They come down, they meet you, and they help you unload your car and take it, or your suitcases, and take it to your dorm. Mm-hmm. And then you are left there to unpack. But I just want to just be prepared, go in with some deep breaths because there's a lot of people in a very small dorm room.
It can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because I remember they almost lost my printer and printer paper.
Oh no.
So I just remember getting up to the dorm and them unloading everything. And my mom was like, so where's the printer? And I think it was my mom and went down with a couple of the student leaders, looking all over this huge building trying to find wherever my printer and printer paper went. Not to scare anybody, but just make sure, because it is very overwhelming, because it's exciting too, because I know at Liberty you're gonna pull up in your car and they're going to be out there with signs that say welcome home and stuff like that. So and they will literally rush your car and start unpacking it. Which is great. Which is awesome help. Yeah. They won't do that in your second and third year.
No,
so you're kind of left to fend for yourself. So definitely go in knowing where all of your stuff is.
Yeah.
That was just kind of one of my first memories of moving into Liberty and meeting my roommate for the first time.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing too, because not only is your stuff scattered everywhere and you're trying to get your things in your room and your family or whoever's dropping you off is there, but your roommate and all of her stuff or his stuff and all of their family is all there in your tiny little dorm room, and it's just a lot
for the first time. It's very overwhelming.
While you're sweaty and
looking
hot.
Back on it, I'm like, how in the world?
I'm glad those days are over.
I know.
And your parents are stressed. They're excited, and they're trying to just make sure that everything's put in the right spot, and they're telling you, giving lots
of questions of ideas, where you want to put
lots
stuff.
Of questions.
The second and third year, it got to a point where Taryn and I were roommates after our first semester. Mm-hmm. So when we moved in to our second year, Taryn had moved in first. So she got all settled, and then I showed up with my parents. And it got to a point where my parents were like, okay, we're going to go to the storage unit and we're going to let you be you and unpack yourself.
Yes.
And Taryn would be like, can I help you? And I'm like, no, please don't.
Yeah.
Just sit there and talk to me while I figure out my mess.
Yeah.
So
just prepare yourself for those moments.
For sure. But it's fun too.
It is fun. It's an experience you'll never forget.
It's so exciting. Even now when Liberty posts their welcome week, Facebook posts, and seeing all the pictures of all of the RAs and the resident shepherds and community group leaders welcoming the little freshmen on campus. It's so fun.
You'll never forget that feeling of pulling up for the first time.
Oh,
and
for sure.
You're so excited and you're nervous. There's all the emotions and your parents are excited and nervous and everyone's just it's a good
it's a good feeling.
Next, we kind of want to touch on there's kind of 5 points that we're going to discuss: priorities, relationships, dealing with change, learning how to refuel yourself, and learning how to stay strong to your convictions. So I am going to jump in talking about priorities in college. It is super important as you head off to college to just know what your priorities are and what you want to get out of the next 4+ years. So really would encourage you to spend some time with the Lord and ask him what his goals are for you in college, because there's so much you can be involved in and there's just so many things to do all the time, and you can't do it all. And so for me, I felt so just blessed and privileged to be able to go to a Christian school like Liberty and get training. For my degree, it's one of the best programs in the world. And so and I just had the opportunity to be poured into by so many just strong Christians and professors that had worked in ministry and were super knowledgeable. So for me, the Lord just really impressed in my heart that, Taryn, my purpose for you is to come out of college as equipped as possible for ministry. Soak up every experience you can. And that's truly what I tried to do. So, for me, I wasn't involved in a lot of clubs. My degree was also a very busy degree, so kept me running a lot. So I wasn't in a lot of clubs and a lot of extracurricular things. But that might be different for you, depending on your degree. It's just very important to kind of zero in on what do I want to get out of college, and kind of keep that at the forefront of your mind as you're sifting through the millions of activities that you can be a part of.
For sure. I really think that for me personally, going to college, it was more about the experience. Because I had always, I wanted to go where I felt the Lord calling me to go, and he made that so abundantly clear that it was Liberty. I don't know if I've shared this story on the podcast or not about, did I ever share it? But essentially we were visiting another college, Baylor University. And I remember thinking, okay, Lord, I feel like this is a contender. I was really only looking at Liberty at that point. But I was just kind of praying, Lord, I really want you to show me where you want me to go. And I remember we were on campus at Baylor University's campus, and they're the Baylor Bears. So they have bears on campus, as they should, And so we were at the little bear exhibit, and I turned around, and there's a guy there wearing a red Liberty shirt. And I was like, Liberty? And he was like, yeah, I went there. It's such a great school. And I was like, I'm going there. It was at that moment I was like, okay, I'm going to Liberty. So for me, I really that's something that I wish I would have done more, was take the time to really, truly think okay, what am I going to prioritize while I'm in college? Which I obviously wanted to prioritize my relationship with the Lord, with meeting new people and academics and things like that. But also at the same time, I feel like I really kind of just went for the experience of going to college. And, all throughout my life, I had not really had because at Liberty, there's such a huge, there's a large number of students, which leads to a large number of activities and extracurricular events and things such as convocation that we were required to go to that, but things that I hadn't really experienced before, in a sense, that I really wanted to be a part of at Liberty.
Right.
So I think I I wish I would have taken more time to like really think like, okay, what do I really want to get out of college?
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that
Good advice.
this is a great question to think through, Taryn. Just like what you want to prioritize while in college. Now, of course, like you could be like, I want to prioritize the experience.
Right. Exactly.
And coming from what I do now for a living, really think about how much that's going to cost you too. So
yes.
just really thinking through that and just praying and just asking the Lord to guide and direct you as you head out to college. But like really like looking through what you want to do academically. It's also hard. Taryn went into college and stayed with the same major for all 3.5 years.
Yes.
For me, I switched my major probably like 4 or 5 times. I feel like
yes,
maybe
all good.
3 or 4.
All good switches.
Yeah. But at the same time, it was hard because 18-year-old Sarah did not know what she wanted to do.
Yeah. Right.
So that's definitely something to consider going into college. And I think really too is I wanted to prioritize that, having that, building my relationship with the Lord in a new place with new people from different walks of life,
right.
Which was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
The next kind of point that we want to bring up is relationships and how to stay in contact with family and friends. And we're really going to touch on this in next week's episode. Right. So definitely stay tuned on that. But I know for Taryn and I, we couldn't just go home for the weekend.
Right.
Like a lot of other students can.
Right.
For me, I would have to get on a plane. I mean, you would too, but
right.
So really like understanding and thinking through like who are the people you want to talk to and the people you want to call.
Yeah.
And it'll kind of pop up later for you too. Because I think I've shared before on the podcast that like my aunt in Hawaii was a great source of just encouragement. Right. I mean, all of my aunts, all of them, my aunt in Hawaii, California, and Nashville, all were just great sources of encouragement for me, whether I was calling them crying or going to their house for Thanksgiving or things like that, and just being able to have that connection with them. But what about you, Taryn? Do you have anything you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I think, a big part is being intentional, like thinking about who you want to stay in contact with, because college moves so fast.
Yeah.
Like you're doing a million things every day. So like you have to really be intentional, or all of a sudden 3 months have gone by and you haven't talked to that friend you wanted to stay in contact with. And so, we're going to go more in depth later, but just being creative too about when, like, call your mom on your way home, walking home from class, like, be creative about like, where do I have those moments that I can contact, someone.
For me, it was, I just ate chicken nuggets for dinner. I'm going to call my mom and tell her.
Right.
It still kind of is to this day.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, anything I do, I'm like, I got to talk to my mom.
Yes. Yeah. So next we'll talk, kind of going along with that, we're going to talk about anxiety and homesickness. Yeah. So these are huge things that come up in college.
And especially for us too.
Yeah.
Taryn and I are blessed to have amazing families that we come from, that we are really close to.
Yeah.
So with that comes, I feel like it comes an extra bout of like homesickness that we have to walk through.
And we know that not everyone has that experience with their family, but most everyone I know has had some form of anxiety or issues adjusting in college.
For sure.
And so for a lot of us, homesickness is a huge part of that. And for me, I had a lot of anxiety in college, especially with my degree. It just moved at a very fast pace, and I had lots of classes and stuff. And then, I did deal with quite a bit of homesickness. My every time, especially for me, it was always worse when I would, like, right after coming back from a break or something. Yeah. But what I want to say on that specifically is, like, it's just so important to be aware of those things, that you are going to experience those things at some point. And it's important to develop really good coping skills and self-talk. Yes. Because otherwise you are just going to spiral, and you're going to keep spiraling, and you're going to end up, and you don't have to do that. Yeah. So, this goes along with taking every thought captive. Right. So it's learning that, okay, I feel this way, but let me process it through in a healthy way. Yeah. For me, that was saying, okay, I'm feeling homesick. I'm going to call my mom and talk to her for a while. I'm going to talk to my grandparents, or I got a countdown app on my phone. It's an amazing little app. I'll link it below. And you can put a countdown of how many days till you see your family next. And I would check it all the time when I felt homesick. And then I'd be like, oh, it's in, the double digits, the single digits now. And so that is just finding those coping skills for you and learning, not being afraid of those feelings, but learning how to deal with them in a healthy way, and talk yourself out of it, talk to the Lord, and just learning how to deal with those issues instead of just, because there are people who go to college and they just spiral and then they can't get themselves out of it. And so you just want to be aware and be prepared for that.
And I think for me, I feel like a lot of what we're talking about, I didn't really realize until now, like looking back.
Yeah.
I really didn't, because whenever, the biggest thing that you said was going home for like vacation or for a trip or whatever, and then coming back. Getting on that airplane,
it's awful,
to come back to college was just probably some of the worst feelings I've ever
It's like this feeling way down in your stomach.
Yeah.
It's like,
kind of like weighs you down. It's crazy to like feel that, and I still feel that now whenever I go home and visit home for a week. But I've noticed now that I have these random like coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
It gets to a point now where I have to start thinking, like I'll text my friends who are out here, and I'll be like, we should plan something for this weekend or coming up or whatnot, and have those plans, building and whatnot. And also just being excited and looking forward for something that I'm coming back to.
Yeah.
So for me, like when I was in college, I would go home for like spring break. Most of the time I did go home for spring break. But I would think, okay, well, when I get back, I have only so many days until I can come home for the summer. Or just like looking forward to seeing Taryn again and like hanging out and planning events and things to go to. So like I think that's a really good point with those coping mechanisms. But really it just starts with knowing like how you think you're going to react in situations like that. Because you could be listening to this now and you're like, I'm ready to go to college. But it really just depends on the person too. So
it's more just being aware that you are going to have some, like, don't be caught off guard and like, be scared because all of a sudden you feel all these emotions you haven't felt before.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that kind of also just comes to the point of what refuels you. Mm-hmm. And this can also lead to the understanding of whether or not you're an extrovert or an introvert. Because I know for me personally, I need that alone time by myself to kind of regroup before going back out there. I know Taryn is similar in that fact as well. So that's just really something to consider. I know for me, being in college, I really needed to like have my personal space, and just even like personal space even with a friend, because you might find a friend who you're like, okay, I can be myself with them, I can be comfortable with them, so I'm okay like spending an evening with them. And this was someone that for me that was what Taryn was to me. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but basically, you find your people, you stick with them, things like that. So just understanding too that, but at the same time that you do need that alone time, because I remember my first semester coming home for Thanksgiving and spending the night at my aunt's house, and how quiet it was. Yeah. Because I had just come from the dorm where you hear people coming and going. Yep. As you're falling asleep, and you have a roommate who might be, in the dorm, in the room with you doing things and whatnot. And I just remember how quiet it was, and how much I kind of missed that quietness. Yeah. So really just find time and find space to be able to do what you need to do to be refueled. Mm-hmm. I know too, also with Liberty, we had a lot of we had our weekly convocations that we were required to go to, which were awesome. Mm-hmm. But we also had what's called campus community, which is not required. on Wednesday nights where it's, worship and a message from our pastor. And I remember going to those also just really refueled me because of the time I got to spend in worship, and then going back and like praying with my prayer group and things like that.
Yeah.
But what about you, Taryn?
Yeah. And I think that's super interesting too. Because I'm going to jump on that and say, like, it's so interesting because, like, that's how Sarah was refueled. And, like, often I was too. But there were also sometimes, like, I was in a music and worship degree. So we had worship services and pretty much students leading worship services. And we'd have messages, almost the same stuff you would get in like a sermon in almost every class. So a lot of times I did that all day. So, and I was in I was in intense times of worship all day long. And so a lot of times I would go back to my dorm and rest during Wednesday night. And part of that was because I needed to refuel a little bit and like not, and I loved going to campus community. And honestly, sometimes I wished I had the energy to go more, but yeah, so I just want to throw it out because it's like, don't always, if you go to a Christian college especially, and you have a lot of, worship services and worship times and sermons all the time, you're gonna have to sit some out eventually to be able to rest a little bit. Rest is biblical. And so that's kind of what we're coming here with, is like, learn what refuels you and what you need to be able to, function at your best.
And I think too, like, another thing, you're gonna go to a school and they might, especially if it's a Christian school, they might require you to go to like chapels and to get like chapel credit and things like that. Don't bash the school because of that.
Don't.
Because going into Liberty, you have to go to convocation. It's required. So don't leave convocation and be bashing the fact that you had to sit through that.
You signed up for it.
You signed up for it. You're paying tuition. Mom and dad are paying tuition.
Yes.
So
get all you can out of it. You're never going to have an experience, even though, sometimes it's stressful, like, to fit it in your day and stuff, but like,
for sure,
you're never going to have another experience like that. So really, avoid the temptation to have attitude, and
and just speaking from like
overhearing
things after walking out of convocation, because we've had this conversation before
a long time ago, but we had it a lot.
And we've always been like, they knew what they were signing up for.
Yes. Not that everyone doesn't have bad days, but
totally. And I know that, like, taking time to rest, like you said, is totally important. When it comes to things that are required of you. It's a little different. But exactly. I think that also is just important to remember that, like, the big takeaway from this, what we're trying to say, I think, is that you're going to be different from the person right next to you. And you're going to experience things differently. But also be grateful for what you are experiencing there as well. So, there's days when I'm like working, because there's days when I'm at work and I think, I wish I could just go to convo right now. Convocation. And, then I miss that sometimes. And, at times too, I did take it for granted while being in school. But just be grateful for whatever life throws your way during college is what we're trying to say with that.
Next, so kind of right along with that, these are all feeding into each other. I'm going to talk about another really important thing, and it is, before you go to college, it's really important for you to get with the Lord and decide what convictions you will not compromise on. Going without saying, we should never compromise on sin. We should always, what the Lord says is sin, and we should not be partaking. But even, there's things in Christianity that are, your own personal convictions. And it's really important to, before you go to college, you need to know where the line is for yourself. And, I think that a lot of times college is known as a time to just get wild, and like, a lot of people, they lose their relationship with the Lord, they backtrack. And I would challenge you that college should be the opposite. For Sarah and I, we grew in our relationship with the Lord leaps and bounds. We had revivals on campus, like just the amazing things we were able to just the movements of the Lord that we were able to see and be a part of. And, that should be where your focus is in college. Like, don't let it be the opposite. And, some of you might be going to a secular school, so it's very important to just have those lines and know your boundaries, and always keep your focus on honoring the Lord. And on the other side of the coin, a Christian college, sometimes it's nice because there's a lot of support, but sometimes it's even harder because you have a bunch of Christians saying, like, it's okay to do this thing, or it's okay to say this word, and we're normalizing it, but really it's not seeking the Lord and his holiness. And but it's hard because there are a bunch of Christians telling you that it's okay, when really it's not okay for you. And so sometimes that can be harder than so I would just wherever you're planning on going, just really commit to the Lord now, and find those convictions and be aware of those that you are not going to compromise on.
For sure. And I really think that, like, I guess kind of what we're talking about is like there's a lot of gray areas within Christianity of, like, the biggest one that's coming to my mind is obviously, there's laws too, but like the biggest one that comes to my mind is drinking alcohol. And obviously you have to be 21 to drink alcohol. But beyond that, like, it's not necessarily a sin to drink. However, there are going to be some people who have the conviction to not drink alcohol. And so I think it's, I've been in situations where going into events, I have to think, okay, I know that I don't drink alcohol, and I'm sticking to that, to that conviction. So I think that's something that, like, when you go into college, you really have to think, go to the Lord and pray and just ask him, like, okay, Lord, like, how do you want me to go about this situation? How do you want me to like, face this? How do you want me to react in this type of situation? And stick to those convictions too. And you know what, the Lord will bless you for that too.
Will. Absolutely.
And just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean that you have to do it. And the Lord will always give you a way out.
Yes, he will too. Absolutely. That another thing that is coming to mind, even going to a Christian college, is sex before marriage. That's being normalized in the Christian community, and it's not right. And people, even at Liberty, people normalize that like it was a normal, like it was okay to do, and it's not. And so you need to really have those boundaries in place, because college is a easy time to fall in that area. So
for sure.
Just those things, all things that there's many other things, but those are two big things that we just encourage you, stay strong in the Lord, and figure it out before you go to college. Don't wait till you're in the middle of a situation with people pressuring you to figure out what you think about it.
Definitely. No, that's really good.
So this was a lot of good conversation and a lot of things to think about, but we want to help you with it. So we have created an off to college planner that gives you a space to think through and just plan out and make decisions on all of these things that we talked about today.
Yeah, those 5 points in particular too, the priorities, the relationships, dealing with change, what refuels you, and your personal convictions. And Taryn says we, but it was actually all Taryn because she's master at Canva. And essentially she's made this one-page graphic with space to, like, answer these questions and to think through and to pray through. So
yes. So it'll be linked below. It'll be a PDF. You can use it on a digital, iPad or whatever, or you can print it off and fill it out. And hopefully this will just help you feel a little more prepared as you're going into college.
For sure.
So, so we kind of wanted to do a few little fun things at the end of this episode. So we wanted to talk a little bit about packing for college.
Yes, packing is very important because for me, like I said, I'm from California where we don't get a lot of rain. So I remember the second day of college. I have a sweet friend that used to live in Lynchburg who now lives in Charlotte, but she would pick me up and take me to, like, get, like, ice cream or whatever. And I remember calling her the second day of school and saying, Brittany, I need a rain jacket. Because I never owned a rain jacket for, like, humid type weather.
You just have, like, a parka.
Right. Yeah. Like
big
more of a
winter
coat jacket type situation.
Right.
I didn't, which I barely use. I mean, I use the rain jacket. I still have it to this day.
Yeah, so do I have mine. The zipper doesn't work anymore.
But that's just something to think about too. It's like you're moving to a place with a different climate, different weather.
Yes.
We obviously, like we've talked about, we moved to Liberty, which is in Lynchburg, and Lynchburg is notorious for lots of rain.
Yes, we call it Drenchburg.
Drenchburg. Yep. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're moving to another state, another climate.
Yeah, for sure. Also, dress code. Does your college have a dress code? You know, sometimes more, you know, Liberty has a dress code being a Christian college. Other colleges will have them if you're in specific programs.
Which Liberty has too.
Yes, Liberty has it too.
Yeah.
So look ahead, find out what your dress code is, so you don't get to college and realize you have no clothes that you can actually wear to class, and you look like very unprofessional. And keep in mind that dress codes are there to make you look professional as well. Because you know, if you're like at Liberty, we actually have a lot of visitors coming into our campuses that are professionals in the field of study.
Right.
So, you know, you're meeting people who are
networking.
Yeah, famous, and you're networking with them. So, you know, the dress codes aren't all bad. They make you look like you're professional.
For sure. And I think too, like, I don't know if we ever really had a problem with the dress code, because it wasn't anything that was super terrible.
No.
I mean, for guys, like, you couldn't wear shorts to classes. Right. With girls, like, we could wear dresses and whatnot.
Right.
So it's just something to think about too, and to respect, because like Taryn said, that there is a reason why they are requiring that.
Yeah.
And not just that, but also just the rules in general of your university. For us Liberty students, we have what's called the Liberty Way.
It's a lot of jokes made about it.
There's a meme page called the Liberty Way.
We have fun over here.
We do, yeah. We know how to have fun too. Yeah. But it's just something to think about and to look through. Just because, you know, it is your home, but it's also like not your home.
Right. And just in general, rebellion is not an attitude the Lord calls us to have.
For sure.
Ever.
Yeah. And another thing to think about when you are moving to college is just how you're getting to college. Yeah. I know for Taryn it is probably easier just to like throw everything into the back of a car. Whereas, like I mentioned earlier, for me, we had to like pack everything into a suitcase, and so I had to think about like what I was bringing.
Yeah.
In terms of that, but also think about bringing like sentimental items.
Yes.
Like pictures. I know Taryn had a great like string.
Yeah.
With
strung tons of pictures up.
Clothespins with pictures, which was really fun. And I had like pictures and like drawings from kids that I knew.
Yeah.
So definitely think about that if that's something you want to have in your dorm.
Yeah. My mom actually was like, when I went to college, she was like, no, I want it to feel like home for you, because you're going to be living there. So she like made sure I had stuff that made it feel homey and like comfortable for me.
Taryn is the queen of homey. So yeah, that was a lot of fun when I moved in with her.
It was. Another thing. This is a big thing.
This is a big thing.
People, bring medicines and first aids with you in your dorm room, okay? The last thing you want to be doing when you are sick with the flu is trying to figure out how to walk or get transportation to a grocery store
if
to
you don't
get
have your car,
medicine. Yeah, if you have your car, it's a lot easier, but a lot of people, you won't have your car.
Right.
So just get those medicines, get an allergy medicine for if you have a reaction to something when you're out on a hike and you come back and you don't feel well. You know, get the things that you need and have them in your dorm.
Taryn had a whole plastic container full of like first aid stuff.
Yeah.
Which was brilliant. And I mooched off that a ton. And her chocolate supply. Yeah. And another thing too was like, I remember this, but I remember getting sick my first year, which I got sick with like a different disease each year.
Yeah, you did.
The first year was strep.
Right.
The second year was flu. The third year, that's when COVID started, so technically I didn't
Right. We were gone. Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, okay, what's gonna be next? Mono, And so I remember getting sick with strep throat and needing antibiotics. And so going back to your point of like, how to get that, research the pharmacies in your area, but also your like the Center for Student Wellness or whatever it's called. They'll know of this too, because the doctor I saw, she was like, oh, there's a pharmacy that delivers.
Yep.
So that was beautiful. This man in this car just came by and he's like, here's your medicine. And I was like, great.
I had that too. They did that for me one time too. It's just try to find those things out before you get sick, because getting sick away from home, especially if you don't have a car, like it's stressful. You're sick. You wish you had your mom, like, or dad or whoever. And you don't. And so it's like, find out, and then it's stressful because you're trying to get what you need, but it's like, just figure it out beforehand. If you don't have like a student wellness center on campus at your school or whatever, like find an urgent care close by, like figure out where you're going to go if you get sick or hurt. And
another thing too, that I don't think they did this early on, like the ROT, our dining hall, but nowadays they do like care packages for when you're sick, and you can like request one and have like your roommate pick it up, or they might deliver it, I'm not sure, but definitely like take a look into that too, and see how that's all gonna work out. Also, Panera delivers.
Yes, they do, and it's I guess now you can always DoorDash, but
that's true.
But you can always do it in a package.
Yeah, Taryn, this is 21st century. We didn't do that back then.
I know. And also hand sanitizer and some antibacterial wipes for if a roommate gets sick. Like you're gonna want to wipe stuff down when they're puking in the like
anytime I was sick, Taryn was over there. Oh, I'm so sorry, wiping down everything. I'm like, great.
But I mean, those are things you are gonna want to have.
And that kind of goes into our like dorm apartment living tips in general.
Yes.
And which another big thing with that is roommates.
Yeah, we're gonna go into that in more detail next episode. But the thing we wanted to touch on is just a general important thing. A healthy roommate relationship is based on clear communication.
Yes.
Like you have to just realize people are very different, very, very, very different.
Yeah.
And so like you just clear communication is, and we're going to talk more in detail, but being able to divvy out chores, knowing what like you absolutely need and what things because you have to be able to know like, okay, these are the things I really need to be able to be comfortable, but I also need to be able to adapt on all the other things, and even sometimes those things like but the way you get to those agreements and compromises is through clear communication.
Yeah, and just knowing your boundaries as well. And like Taryn said, like knowing what you need.
Yeah, to be able to communicate it.
Right.
Instead of just assuming everything's going to be the way it was when you were at home, because it won't be. You're going to have to make compromises. And so you need to know the things like, I cannot sleep with the light on or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
Because and then I didn't have that option. My first roommate kept the light on. And so I had to figure out how to sleep with the light on. And you really can be very adaptable, but you just have to be willing to try it and to have conversations when it doesn't work, So,
Another thing too is like when you're moving into your dorm, know what type of shower you're going to have.
Yes, and bathroom, yep.
Our first dorm experience was in what's called Commons. And that, when I talk to potential students now, I say that that's the hotel style dorms. So it's you, one roommate, and you share a bathroom with that person.
Right.
So it's literally like a hotel room.
Yeah.
But in the other dorm we moved into, that had a community shower for the hall of girls for in our situation. And so I remember Taryn was like, well, we need to get flip-flops and like shower caddies, things like that. And I was like, wait a second, we do. So I remember I just like at Target. Also, if you go to, obviously you're going to college in a college town.
Yes.
That's dumb. But the Walmart will have wonderful things like that randomly.
Yeah.
That maybe a typical Walmart might not have.
Yeah. The Walmart will also be absolutely swamped the first.
I'm already, it's end of July right now, and I'm already planning, okay, we're not going to Target, we're not going to Walmart before, during, and after move-in week.
Right.
Might be a few weeks before it calms down. But yeah, definitely make plans around that. One thing that always helped with us, for me, moving in was me staying back and like putting stuff away.
Yeah.
And like my mom and my dad like running out to grab stuff so that I could be getting stuff done. But we'll definitely touch more into that later with like the roommate situation and things like that. But this was a really good first episode into our Off to College series.
Yeah, hopefully we gave you guys a lot of just tips and encouragement that we really hope you can use.
For sure. And if you're new to the Cozy Conversations podcast, at the end of each episode, we answer a cozy question that kind of centers around the theme that we're talking about and stuff like that. So today we have a two-parter.
Yay.
So the first question is, what was something you were looking forward to before going to college? Like looking ahead to going to college.
Yeah, so for me, I thought of two things. One was I had already visited Liberty and gotten to know some of the professors in the school of music, and I love them so much, and I love the school of music and the classes that I knew I would be taking. So I was so excited to be a part of that and just the like experience and I would get here that the Lord had for me. And then the second thing was I was excited to just like be on my own for the first time and just, it's like, wow, it's just so unknown, but so exciting.
Yeah. That's really cool. I was just thinking right now for my answer for this question. Obviously, like Liberty has a really great football team, so I was really excited. Which, I mean, there's other reasons why I chose to come to Liberty, but football
is pretty great.
The sports in general, Liberty was high up on the list.
Yep.
And also just like the convocation times, because Liberty gets people from all over the world. Yeah. Sometimes a lot of different backgrounds too. To come and speak at Liberty. So I was really excited for that. And also Liberty gets a lot of like Christian music artists to come perform. Which sold me like instantly. But another thing I was thinking just in terms of like with the School of Music, because that's how we met. Was that I came to college for a weekend. For those of you who don't know, Liberty does throughout the year, twice a semester, what's called College for a Weekend for high school juniors and seniors to come to get a taste of college life. So I did that my senior year, and I was really wanting to go check out like the music classes. And one of the girls who I met, that night at Liberty, who was already a Liberty student, was like, "Oh, I'm a music student. Why don't you come with me in the morning to my 8:15 class?" And it just so happened to be that I walked into Dr. Randlett's music theory class. And so I knew, okay, I have to take music theory. I want to take it with Dr. Randlett. So that's how I signed up for that class, not knowing that Taryn was also signing up for that class because of her experience with working with Dr. Randlett during the summer. Shout out to Dr. Randlett. We love him. So that's definitely something that I was looking forward to before coming to college. But the second part of that question, or this question, is what's a fun memory from college that you have now looking back?
Okay, I also came up with two. One is night of worship. The Liberty School Music does a night of worship every year. It is my favorite night of the year. Some of the times I've felt the closest to the Lord and just closest thing to a heavenly experience that I've had have been those nights. And so I absolutely love those nights. They're great memories for me. Many other worship times too were similar. Like some during campus, like when we'd have the revivals break out and campus come and like that. Remember that sunrise service we had after that revival? So many people had gotten saved.
Go to that because I had
just gotten back
from California.
It was
but I did go. I got back from California and I immediately went to the pond on campus.
Yes, you came because I told you, I was like, Sarah, we're having a revival and they're baptizing people right now in the dirty, filthy pond. But their sins are washed away.
The pond might not be clean, but their sins are forgiven. So I remember that, but then I was jet lagged, so I didn't go to the one in the sunrise service. But
so that was one, just those times of just amazing like moments of worship. The other thing, just a fun thing, is one of my favorite memories is when we used to do our little fall kickoff. Like we would put out the fall decorations in the dorm. Then we would go, Liberty has like a little camp, and they would do a fall festival. So we would go to like the fall festival and like go canoeing, and like we would eat the little fall
Like they would
foods
have
that they
caramel
had, like,
apples.
yeah, and
things
like apple
that.
cider donuts and
Yes.
things, and then we would come back and watch like a Hallmark fall movie, and we get like Panera or something in the
Yes.
dorm, and it was always so cozy.
So cozy.
And so
That's
much
where
fun.
Cozy Conversations was born,
It
pretty
was.
much. Yeah, so for me, definitely like our movie nights, the football games, in
Oh, they're so much
particular,
fun.
one of the first
Oh,
home
oh.
football games
I know it's funny.
where I always have to think, okay, yeah, so Liberty, we were up by like 3 points. And the other team was going for a field goal kick,
Right.
which would have made them tie with us.
Right.
Or
wait, something like that.
Something like that, where they were either going to tie or they were going to, I can already hear my
win
dad.
by
No,
1
this is what
point.
they were going to do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were going to win by 1 point.
Yeah, by kicking a field goal.
I think we were, okay,
Yeah.
starting over. We were up by 2 points.
Okay.
They went to kick a field goal, which would have made them win by 1 point.
1 point. Okay.
So they would have won if they would have gotten that field goal. And we were all chanting,
because
block
we thought
that
they were going to
kick,
yeah.
block that kick. And we blocked the kick.
Yeah.
And all the students, because at that point we won the game,
right.
we rushed the field,
yes.
which every home game after that, they had to say, please don't rush the field.
We're like,
for the safety of the people, which we already broke that when we beat BYU.
I know.
Year. So that was a fun memory.
It was fun, yeah.
Because we were together for that,
and
it was
screaming at the top of our voices.
Yes, it was so much fun.
It was.
Obviously I wrote down Fall Fest too. I'm doing that because Taryn and I did that every year. But then another fun memory was 2018 or 2019 Christmas on the Boulevard. Yeah. Christmas on the Boulevard is it used to be a like 5-night event.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 nights.
Right.
In 1 week during finals.
Yeah.
Where if you were a music student, you were probably somehow involved in that.
Yeah.
Plus rehearsals during the day.
Right. Plus finals.
Plus
juries.
Plus packing up to leave for Christmas
plus white
break.
glove.
Plus white glove, which is making sure your dorm room is pristine in order to be able to leave and get approved by your RA to leave.
Yeah.
So all of that piled into 1 week,
right.
but it was always so much fun.
It was.
And we would have like the classical night where we would sing like from Handel's Messiah.
Yeah.
And then we would have like the Christmas pop songs we would sing. And then they had like an opera one night, which we didn't sing in, but we had to attend at that point. Mm-hmm. And then they had the President's Encore, which was kind of everything all in one.
Right.
But I remember for the President's Encore, we did a rendition of Oh Holy Night.
Yeah, the Bradley Knight version.
Yes, and it was so good. And Dr. Whaley at the time, dean of the School of Music, after we sang it once, and we got a good response from the audience.
Yes.
He was like, sing it again.
Yeah.
So we sang it again, and it was just amazing.
It was amazing.
Just an amazing moment of like worship.
Yeah.
With the School of Music. You can still find the video on Facebook.
We should link it.
We should link it. That would be so much fun. And like let you know what time to watch. Because the second one you could tell like the difference almost.
Yeah.
But it was just such a powerful time of worship.
Yeah.
Because you don't really think of Oh Holy Night. I mean, it is like a worship song, but you don't really think of it as being like a worship song.
People think of it as a Christmas carol.
Yeah, but it is such a worship song. Yeah. And in that moment, with like 300 members in the choir of college students worshiping, singing the song, that's probably one of my big highlights from college.
So good.
So
it was a good night.
I will never forget having to stand the whole night.
Oh my gosh, we didn't have enough. The School of Music grew very quickly.
Yeah.
And they just built a huge, amazing facility.
Yeah.
And it really is amazing.
Yeah.
But they don't have enough space. They didn't have enough space in the choir loft for everyone to sit. So us girls who were on the taller side ended up
had to stand
the whole night.
It built character.
It did.
Yeah.
You don't realize how painful that can be because you're used to like moving around when you stand up, but when you have to stand like and not move.
It was probably better when we were on the sides standing up there versus on the stands on stage.
Right.
The amount there was one night where like 3 girls passed out.
Yeah,
One passed out into the lap of one of our professors.
During Handel's Messiah.
Yep. A girl passed out
Poor
next to
thing.
me.
If
and
you're
we're-
listening to this, we
yeah,
love you
we're
so
sorry.
much.
We love
And
you
we're
so much, but
sorry.
we love telling the story. A girl passed out next to me, and they had to like carry her out during Handel's Messiah. So drink water if you have to do performances.
Don't lock your knees.
Eat food.
Yeah. They got up the next day, the professors in the school music before, like at our rehearsal, and they were like, can you guys please eat and drink water?
Don't lock your knees.
Before you get up there, and don't lock your knees.
Yeah, and I think that's probably also part of the reason why Christmas on the Boulevard has changed so much because of that year. So now like only like one choir has to perform like one night or something.
Yeah, they switch them all up.
Yeah. That's because we were the guinea pigs.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. But this has been such a fun time.
Yeah.
Just kind of like talking about our experience and like thinking back and reminiscing on everything that we walked through.
Yeah.
And encouraging you as well.
Mm-hmm.
We hope that you have been encouraged by this. We are just really excited for this series as well. Stay tuned for the next 3 weeks. Send in your favorite, if you have graduated from college or you're in college now and you have fun memories, send in your college tips and your fun memories. Post them on our socials, comments on our posts.
Yes.
And then also just get ready for the rest of season 2 because after these first 4 episodes, we're gonna have 6 episodes dedicated to fall and coziness and just all sorts of excitement there.
Yes.
We have a really big surprise for that portion of the podcast as well, for that season as well. Yes. But yeah, this has been really good.
Also, if you're new to the podcast, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We'll link them all below, and YouTube.
Yes.
And we obviously our Spotify channel. So,
obviously, yes. That is awesome. Yeah, please like, comment, and subscribe.
We can
what they all say. Apparently. But yeah.
This has been great.
This has been so much fun. Thanks for reliving all of this with me, Sharon.
Yeah, anytime.
And other than that, as you know, we like to close it out with stay cozy.